Strive Coaching Studio, guiding business leaders to meet the highest version of themselves. And now, here's Michelle, certified coach and founder of Strive Coaching Studio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I hope you're having a beautiful spring day like we are right now. What a gorgeous time of year. I am so excited because what perfect timing to talk about being busy than right now, at least for us, just to kind of give you an idea. We are in the process of seeing through the graduations of 2 of our 3 children. And one is graduating from college and one is graduating from high school. And it is such exciting times with everything going on, especially on the heels of this past year. But even more than that, I realize that as soon as life is handing you these extra things on your plate, it's so easy to fall into that busy trap. And, you know, the fact is we all have the same amount of hours in a day. And for me, at least, I'm really good at planning and I'm really good at having everything mapped out until something like these kinds of things happen. And then I need to include those in my schedule, which means probably some other things need to come off the schedule and I need to reprioritize. And it's so easy to fall into the busy trap and still think you can do it all. And the fact is, maybe you can, maybe you can't, but until you map it all out, it is really hard to say that for sure. And putting yourself in the busy category can be so tempting. To put yourself in the overwhelmed category and the stressed out worry category. It's so easy to do. But the fact is that we can all manage the time that we have based on the priorities that we have. If something needs to get bumped, then something needs to get bumped. So if you find yourself saying, I'm too busy to learn how to be less busy, I'm too busy to learn more about how I can be the manager of my time and of my day so that my time and my day don't manage me. Because when that happens, that's when we fall into the busy badge of honor. That's when we fall into overwhelm and stress and worry. So we get to either be in charge or it gets to be in charge of us. It's one or the other. And I hear this all the time, that I'm too busy to learn and I'm too busy to take the time to put in a new system, to organize my schedule more. And the truth is that it is the best investment of your time that you can make to be able to do that. Being busy is not only the biggest limiting factor for growth and for being in control of your day, but it also becomes the story we tell ourselves so many times over and over, that over time, we begin to not know any other way anymore. Most of my clients, probably 99.9% of them, conservatively, come to me wearing that all too familiar busy badge of honor that I myself have worn a time or two in my life and am tempted to again and fall into that trap again when things get away from me, like times right now, for me at least. I think we've all fallen into the busy trap and it's easy to stay in it. Someone asks how you're doing and the automated response, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, there's so much going on. It's crazy right now, right? I feel like I hear that and have said it so many times. So maybe you have too. So maybe you can relate to some of the stories that are commonly shared with me or that I have had myself. You may say that you feel you're in a panic because everyone needs so much from you all the time, and it's so urgent that your heart races trying to keep up and maintain your attention and organization through it, and you just need to get your head above water and take a breath. Maybe you can relate to that one. Or you go and go and go and go from back-to-back meetings all day that you don't stop to eat lunch or go to the bathroom on an average day in your life. Maybe you say that or feel that way commonly. And I hear frequently that others in their organizations or teams are calling them into meetings at the last minute or having surprise drop-in meetings either in person or by phone that last an hour or longer, and they just don't feel like they can say no, either because of the topic of the meeting or the person who's asking or requesting the meeting or insisting on the meeting. Or maybe you're so busy that you don't have the time to create an organized calendar, so you end up mixing up meeting days or times, losing more time because you're correcting from the errors of the mistakes or the confusion. You're changing the direction of your travel plans that day. And now maybe they're not aligned. So you're actually circling back and doing more driving or more preparing than you had planned. So it actually cost you more time in the end because you weren't able to organize and take the time to be prepared ahead of time and plan. So you might have a hard time handing things off to someone else because it's just quicker to do it yourself than to teach someone else to do it. Or the client really needs it to come from you, so you think. Or you aren't sure you can trust anyone else to do it right or the way you would do it. So you're buried in the weeds of the to-do lists. And some say, maybe this is you, they don't like the rigidity and the structure of managing their time so specifically. They like freedom and flexibility of the day to allow for what comes up. So they have no organization and run themselves ragged all day. Or many times they get to the end of the day and they don't really know what they did at all. They didn't produce or accomplish any of the things that they might have normally wanted to. So then a day comes where you get a weekend or you get some time and now you feel guilty because you didn't really do any of the things that you wanted to do. So you're not even enjoying the time off that you would normally say would be your time off. And for others, I hear they get caught up in so many small things that they need to do that they don't ever find the time to do the things that they want to do. And for some, being busy is somehow attached to being or feeling important or valuable. If you're not busy, then you must not be necessary, right? You must not be needed. It's job security to be busy. For others, they feel that if their teams are busy, then it's important to be a busy role model too, and that it somehow will help them feel better about being busy because you are too. Some leaders think that being down in the busy trenches is the best place for them to be with their teams when it's busy, to show that they can do it too. And some people have the belief system that if they only work a certain number of hours per week, or if they aren't at the office at the crack of dawn, and they don't stay until after the sun goes down, that they must not be a team player, must not be willing to give as much to their important jobs, believing that the number of hours of work somehow equates to their work ethic. They worry that the perception to others is that they're not a hard worker or just a slacker. And even if they're working when they're not in the office, they do believe that being seen in the office is so important because that gives you the perception that they are working. If they're not there working, they must not be. So I'm guessing that at least one of these examples might be relatable to you, or you probably didn't listen to this podcast at all. I have literally heard them all so many times, and there's probably some I've missed. Maybe there are others that you say to yourself that I didn't even mention here. But I think this encompasses at least a lot of the clients I speak to every day or have felt myself in the past. And what my purpose is today is to just give you the opportunity to question some of these and whether they really are true. Just put a question mark around all of that. And let's really just wonder and be curious about whether or not these kinds of ways and methods and approaches to busyness and life and time are really serving us to accomplish the goals that we really want and are really helping us to live into our roles in the best way that we can and maybe could for our companies, for our families, for our people. Are we really working at the best levels? Because our screen time reports on our phones and our tablets are up skyrocketing right now. Our online shopping numbers have skyrocketed as a society. Social media is the best source of advertising for most industries. And our consumption of alcohol and food has increased to our highest levels recently. And on another note, since the pandemic began, I heard a news report yesterday that the Vegas gambling sites are the busiest they have ever been in terms of revenues and dollars spent and generated. So why is it that when we are as busy as we've ever been, that we have the time to spend on all or some of these things, or even other things that I didn't even mention up there? Because these things and others are many times an escape for us from our busyness. The world has changed quite a bit over the past year. We've created new habits and routines and schedules for ourselves. Our work lives, home lives, parenting lives, and friend and family social lives, as well as travel lives, have been completely different. So we've found our pleasures and our escapes in new and different ways too. And usually it's the ones that are handed up to us so easily, with our phones, with our computers, with what is closest to us, since we haven't been able to expand outside of that. So are we more busy or less busy? Who knows? It depends. But what I do know is that we all have 24 hours in a day to spend in whatever we choose, any way we choose. While we may have differences in equality in many other ways in this world, this is one that will always equalize every single human in the same exact way, time. We all have the exactly same amount of it every single day. To the minute. Nobody has an unfair advantage. Nobody can cheat the system to get a few extra minutes or years on their life. Nobody gets gypped out of some of it. You and I and everyone else have exactly the same. And this is really great news. And it's something we don't talk about nearly enough. How can some people manage to get so much done in a day and others struggle? The first and most important reason is because we all get to choose what and how we prioritize. And how wonderful is that? Here's why it's so wonderful. Because we can look at our time as the most valuable possession we have, and we have the freedom and flexibility to choose whatever we want to use it for. You get to have all the power. We get to have all the control and all the freedom we can possibly have from it. This means we have all the responsibility to manage it. When we want to have all the power and all the control, we also get all of the responsibility that comes with that package. Many of us find it so much easier to blame the lack of time on something that is outside of us so that we don't need to take the responsibility for it. But guess what? When we choose to not take responsibility for it, guess what else we give up? The power and the control over it. And once we do that, time has begun to manage us. Our jobs, our bosses, our employees, our family, and the rest of the world all get to have all the power and the control over our time because we give it to them. We either control our time or our time controls us. We must choose. It is one or the other. There's not an in-between. So which one is in control for you? You or the time? And everybody else and the rest of the world. Because there's nothing outside of us that controls our time. We always get to choose to do that. And once we decide to protect it and take care of it and treat it like it is the most valuable thing we have, it changes everything. We get to treasure it and treat it delicately and preciously. And when we do that, we think about what we do with every single second. That means that whether you decide to take the time to make more time for yourself, make more money, educate or advance or learn to play an instrument, or decide to just lie in a hammock and read a book, you get to choose it so consciously and so deliberately, because that's what you decided you wanted to value for those moments. That's what you decided to prioritize for that piece of your time. If you're spending your time scrolling social media or online shopping, like I've done myself plenty, that's a choice too. And the same time can be spent on any of these things. It's time from your day spent doing X, whatever. You fill in the blank. Creating structure in our life is what ultimately allows us all the freedom that we desire most. Assigning the precise amount of time to things that we want to accomplish each and every day, week, month, and year is exactly what allows us to have so much more in our lives, enjoy it at new levels, and value the creation of everything that we're capable of doing. And then, when we want to lay in the hammock and read our book, we don't feel guilty about it. Look at everything we already did. We're not laying in our hammock reading our book thinking about all the things we didn't do. Creating structure is what ultimately allows us all the freedom that we desire most. So all this to say that doing anything that can help us think we are creating more time for ourselves, which of course is a complete delusion, as we just established, is by far one of the most important and valuable investments we can make in ourselves. Time awareness, time prioritizing, time valuing, time assessment, time managing, calling it whatever we like. But since we can't get any more of it, no matter how hard we try, we have the power, the control, and the responsibility to use it wisely and deliberately for ourselves each and every day, in line with what we want, what we need, and what we value most in our worlds. My advice to you is this: if you fell into any of the examples from above that I listed, question it. Decide for yourself whether you want to continue thinking or believing those things. Question whether they are true. Be curious about whether they serve you and whether they are aligned with what you value most in your life. Decide whether the results you have around you are the ones that you want to continue to have in your life. And if you want more out of your life, this is such a great place to start. And come check us out for more specifics on this topic and so much more that will help you have more of what you want in your life. I hope I'll be seeing you soon.
Thanks for listening. For more great tips, visit us on strivecoachingstudio.com.